Roger Stone here with an urgent warning. While we celebrate Trump's historic win, inflation continues to drain your IRA and 401k. And China is now targeting your money with a kill shot on the U.S. dollar. That's why thousands of Americans are shielding their savings with gold and contacting the experts at Colonial Metals Group. Gold has protected American wealth through every financial war. For a free 2024 gold guide that explains everything, go to freegoldguide.com/stone or call 800-747-6589. So go to freegoldguide.com/stone or call 800-747-6589. That's 800-747-6589 for a free 2024 gold guide to learn how you can protect your life's work, and if you qualify for a free home safe and up to $7,500 in free silver right now. That's freegoldguide.com/stone.
Welcome to the 5 o'clock show. It's time for Common Sense. Now, it's Katz and Cosby with John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby, standing for truth, justice, and the American way, bringing common sense to the world. Now, here's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby.
There's the sound of silence.
And it is the sound of silence, guys, because Biden has been awfully silent.
He's in St. Croix.
He's in St. Croix. He's on the beach physically and mentally. And that's because, guys, it's also the final countdown.
It's the final countdown.
24 days.
24 days.
How much damage, John, do you think can be done in 24 days?
I think maybe he'll be quiet.
Yeah, that seems to be the fact that he kind of went to the beach, and we haven't heard too much. We haven't seen him speak too much at all. We don't even know if he signed those commutations, Judge Weinberg.
Oh, I think they have a machine, and somebody just put it in front of him, and if he's not just pressing the button on the machine, somebody's pressing the button for him.
Yeah, I think so too.
And
what do you think,
everyone's reacting to President-elect Trump.
Everybody. And in fact, today, John, there are all these Canadian ministers that are down there at Mar-a-Lago, and meeting with him. And that's because
the foreign minister.
Yep. And the economic minister. Isn't that interesting? And Tom Homan's there too. The borders
the terms of the 51st state.
Can you imagine? It's like 51st state and they run down. Wait, we got to go back.
Canadian taxes would go down almost 50%. But it costs the Canadian people that they pay every year.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? Did you see that poll, John?
Maybe they'll get a better deal. The other thing we were talking about this morning is their medical. That if they want medical, MRI, for instance, a cardiologist for an MRI, there's 18-month waiting time.
Yeah, there was somebody who was waiting for like a surgery tied to brain cancer. Yeah. That was like 2 to 3 years. I heard in Canada.
Talking about it.
Right.
That'll be helpful when they do the autopsy.
Yeah, exactly.
They sent him down to Buffalo, and he was sick, and they saved his life because they took an MRI in Buffalo, and if they waited on the Canadian system, the man would have died.
How sad is that? So much for universal health care, right?
9-month waiting list on the Canadian system.
Wow.
I mean, how stupid can that be?
How stupid. And it's just to, people who sit there and say, oh, universal health care, what a disaster.
Does not work. It's not complicated. It doesn't work. And by the way, dirty little secret is you reach a certain age and you decide you're not entitled to this test. So they put you in the back of the line.
The other secret was, Dr. Michalos called in today. The other secret was that the fact that all the doctors now work for a major hospital, and the hospital only allocates them 11 minutes to deal with a patient. So they don't have time to sit there and evaluate. They got 11 minutes, and that's it.
Do they have like a clock, like a timer?
No timeouts, John?
No timeouts.
Oh, my
Even
goodness.
For football, they give you a couple of timeouts in 11 minutes.
A mulligan?
Yeah.
In golf? I mean, that's crazy. John, that is crazy. But how sad.
So what happened is they not computerized, they corporatized medicine. corporate. Is that a word?
Yes,
Corporate-
it is
Corporatized. Corporatized. Yeah.
medicine.
How sad. And my mother is Danish. My mother was Danish, and she used to talk about how in Denmark, we'd get a call from a relative who had cancer, and it took her like a year just to get in. And she was
So
actually,
universal health care doesn't work.
What a mess.
And whoever is asking for it is dumber than door crap.
That's a good way to say it.
See,
What do you
I
think?
didn't say the other four-letter word.
No, but we knew what you meant. What do you think, Ed? What did
That's
you
what Medicare for All is about. It's
Yeah.
universal health care. It's not Medicare. It's universal
And guess
health
what?
care.
And it does not work. Wherever they have it, it does not work.
It does not work. Well, listen, and by the way, talking about healthcare and education, there was an estimate that it costs, it's like $150 billion is what we have spent on the migrants. And Tom Homan just recently came out. That's for like healthcare. That's for all this
took
stuff.
away from the American people.
Yes, exactly. That's a lot of money, John.
And the education system, it took away from the American people.
Yes. And you want that in your schools. Remember, we were talking during COVID, all that stuff too. So now Tom Homan is saying, you know what? It's going to cost on day one. He's saying he wants $86 billion to deport. And now there's some Democrats raising holy heck. I didn't say the other word.
You mean it costs too much? Do they know how to do arithmetic?
Conservative.
By the way, there's a big thing that's going to happen on January 3rd. January 3rd, the new Congress takes place, and there's some controversy on whether Mike Johnson is going to
Remain a speaker. And Hakeem Jeffries was on, who I met Hakeem. Hakeem was, I know him for a long time, and always a very nice guy. But he was very mean-spirited this morning, and he says, I'm not giving not even one vote to Mike Johnson. That's terrible.
Let me tell you something. The most important thing that has to happen is Johnson has to get reelected. He's a very solid guy. He's a great leader. The people are trying to stop him within his own party.
Newt
Are making a
Gingrich
big
before.
mistake.
I talked to Newt Gingrich before, and he was short and sweet. Do you have it?
Yep, here's the clip, and here's what Newt told you.
Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, is doing an extraordinary job. I tell everybody I was a pretty effective speaker. I could never do his job. He has no margins. He has the patience of Job in the Bible, and he just calmly listens. And frankly, the recent exercise, which was really the Constitution working, the last stand of the old order of the Biden system, wanted a 1,500-page continuing resolution. Trump intervened decisively, as did Elon Musk, and Johnson managed a process and got that down to 136 pages. But in the end, they had literally taken out almost 1,400 pages, huge amounts of money, a number of left-wing cuckoo ideas, and yet people were complaining. Well, that is when you have no margin and you have to maneuver and listen and maneuver and listen, that is how the constitutional process works. President Trump himself said that it was a great achievement, that he praised Speaker Johnson, and I hope that all the Republicans will get together and decide that they need a Republican unity program for the next 2 years.
I agree 110% with Newt Gingrich. The Republicans have to be as unified as the Democrats are. No, not one Democrat would go against Nancy Pelosi or Hakeem Jeffries. And why do we have such disloyalty among the Republicans?
And Newt knows how to get, he got the majority. He knows how to corral,
We got now on Congressman Lawler, my congressman from the Chappaqua House I have up there. And Mike, what the heck is going on? Why are they trying to screw Mike Johnson?
Because we have some foolish people that unfortunately continue to misbehave.
Can we make a crap list?
He did use crap, not another word. Okay, Mike?
This is very simple. Politics boils down to one thing. There are no Pyrrhic victories. It is 50 plus 1. And if you don't have the majority, then you get nothing. You don't get to govern. And so, to me, this is very simple. The American people have given us the majority, despite some of the best efforts of some of my colleagues, we were able to keep the majority heading into January. President Trump has one opportunity here to get the work of the American people done with respect to the economy, with respect to the border, with respect to the international crises, energy policy, et cetera. It requires a unified Republican Party working together, recognizing that none of us are going to get everything we want, but that if we actually work together, if we are willing to not let perfect be the enemy of the good, then we will actually accomplish a great deal in this Congress and with this president to address the challenges most acutely facing the American people. And it starts on January 3rd with all of my colleagues putting aside their petty personal grievances and supporting the team. Mike Johnson has been put in an unenviable position, having to, walk into a mess that was left behind by Matt Gaetz and 7 useful idiots that decided to remove Kevin McCarthy, teaming up with Hakeem Jeffries and all the Democrats.
Who was another very decent guy.
And Kevin was a great speaker. And unfortunately, these folks caused so much chaos. But Mike Johnson walked in and he did the job. We got a lot of stuff across the finish line that had to get done, and we won. We won in November and kept the majority. And so the bottom line here is if we want to be able to get the work done that we all say we want to, it requires us to work together to elect Mike Johnson as Speaker on January 3rd, certify Donald Trump's election on January 6th, and hit the ground running when Donald Trump becomes president on January 20th. If we do not, if we create chaos because a handful of people choose not to support Mike Johnson, we are going to be stuck in a quagmire, and it's going to be very difficult to get anything done on behalf of the American people if we cannot find a way to work together.
Mike, Ed Cox here. Donald Trump just had his last campaign. This is his last administration, and the first year of it will define his legacy going forward. And it is a historic administration. It's a big change from the last administration. The work has to get done for the sake of America.
No question about it. And that's, I didn't take all the slings and arrows in my race to sit and fight amongst my colleagues. I ran to do something on behalf of the American people, on behalf of my district, to address the affordability crisis, to secure our border, to address the energy crisis impacting this country. You look at what Kathy Hochul just did, signing a bill that's going to charge $75 billion to the energy companies. In what world has she not learned that will be passed on to the consumer? We are already dealing with exorbitant energy costs here in New York. Utility bills have skyrocketed over the past few years. It's the policies like these, that are crippling our state, crippling our country, and it's got to stop. And
it was a dumb thing for her to do. It was a really dumb thing for her to do. Completely. Doesn't she realize? Yeah, she signs a bill for $78 billion against the oil companies. They're just going to reflect it to the consumer.
Right. I mean, it's economics 101.
It's a war, Mike. It's Richard Weinberg. It's a war against energy. And they're absolutely ridiculous because we don't have the infrastructure to maintain everything they want on electricity.
Are they going to compete?
Solar, wind?
Are they going to compete? Who's going to be the bigger war person?
Against energy?
Yeah, the California guy.
Oh, Newsom. Yeah,
Newsom,
right. Who's going to be the bigger resistance?
New York, California.
And with AI, the amount of energy needed by this country is going to go up exponentially.
Yeah. Governor Patterson, you wanted to say something, too.
Congressman, I thought you laid out an argument that whatever party you were in, after getting this type of leadership, it's the right way to go. But my question to you is, you must have, as much as you didn't want to, had to have conversations with members of your own party who just don't seem to get it. It's not all about you. It's all about us. And I think that it happens on both sides of the aisle. But it's one thing about public service that sometimes those who serve are really not doing justice for the people who elected them.
There's no question about that, Governor. I mean, look, I've had many conversations with many of my colleagues, and obviously I'm not shy when it comes to expressing my thoughts. But the fact is, some of my colleagues really just fundamentally believe that if they don't get 100% of what they want, or 99.999% of what they want, that it's insufficient. That's just not the way our government works. It's not the way marriage works. I've said this many times. Anybody who's ever been married knows you have to find compromise. You're not going to get everything you want. And so the reality here for many of my colleagues, hopefully, as part of their own New Year's resolutions, they'll recognize the need to work together as a team. We cannot go through what we went through 2 years ago with the 15-round election of Kevin McCarthy and then 9 months later removing him from office as Speaker. It will destroy any ability to get what we need to get done on behalf of the American.
There's one lesson everybody should learn, and we got to go to our next speaker. The lesson is don't believe Hakeem Jeffries, don't believe Nancy Pelosi when they say, trust me.
Yeah, right. We'll work together for the good of the country.
Kevin McCarthy learned that, and
don't rely on
Mike Johnson.
And don't rely on the no labels Democrats who do nothing.
And the no labels Democrats
are nowhere.
They're Democrats. That's all. I mean,
right.
They're not. I mean, they are what they are. But you can't believe them either.
Right. They're supposed to be,
They're supposed to be bipartisan.
Exactly.
No way.
Right. They're nowhere to be seen.
This was a big argument we had as part of Problem Solvers. People were very upset because, when push came to shove, all the Democrats went in with Hakeem to remove Kevin McCarthy. And the reason they removed him was that Kevin McCarthy had raised $500 million in 2022 to win back the House, and they knew
Kevin was a good guy
on the board.
Amazing.
Now, last question before we go to our next speaker. We're going to go talk about the border. Why is Ben Carson? I just saw him on Fox before. Why is Ben Carson getting screwed? Why is Mike Pompeo being screwed? Why is Kevin McCarthy being screwed? I mean, they're all good Republicans. Maybe they should have gotten a job in the administration.
Look, obviously President Trump has the right to choose who he wants.
Absolutely, he has the absolute right.
But I think, look, we have some really good, talented people. Mike Pompeo, I've gotten to know pretty well. Obviously, Kevin McCarthy, I know very well. I think Ben Carson did a great job as HUD Secretary before. Over the course of a 4-year administration, there's always going to be opportunities that arise, and we'll see. Obviously. As this unfolds, who comes in to help along the way. I think there's a lot of opportunity for folks to help. But the key here is that we all have to work together and we all have to be focused on the American people.
Good
they
answer.
Elected us to do a job.
Yep.
That is what they elected us to do. It's not about individual personalities. It is about them.
Yeah, and the public's spoken.
Thank you so much for coming on. Happy New Year. Maybe we'll talk to you before then. And, let's have a great year.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. You too, Mike.
Rita, let's go to the border. Let's go to Paul Perez on the border.
Let's go. We need a border song. We always have the Texas song, but we need
a
border.
on the border.
I knew I'd get it out
Mexico
of you.
way.
I knew I'd get you guys.
Who sang that?
There's the music.
Who sang that song?
Governor Patterson,
Down on the border,
you're the guy.
down Mexico
You're
way.
the name that tune. Come on, between Judge Weinberg and Governor Patterson.
His first name is Joe, and I can't.
All right, you have 5 minutes to think of it. Okay. All right, we'll get back to you. And in the meantime, come on, look at Judge Weinberg's cheating.
Let's go to Paul Perez.
And in the meantime, let's go to Paul Perez. He is head of the Border Patrol Union. Paul, great to have you here. First of all, I got to get clarification from you. What is happening with families? There's been all this brouhaha. Are the families going to stay together? These are the folks where the parents are here illegally. Say the child is born in the United States. Tom Homan saying he's going to keep them together, but deport them together. Is that right?
So what he's made clear of is that we're not going to be in the separating families business, and that's going to be a decision that the families are going to have to make. So we cannot deport United States citizens. That's clear. And so if the parents are here illegally and they want to remain with their family, then they're going to have that choice. What we're trying to do, and Tom's made clear, is get funding for ICE beds that will actually be able to house families together. So that was one of the things that the Biden administration took away, the ability to house families together, which led to families being released as long as they had a child with them. That was part of the magnet. And so, of course, you heard all the things that were going on with families coming in because they would be released. That's what part of ending catch and release is going to do. We're going to end the release of people coming in, whether they have families or not.
What did you think, Paula, the fact that Mexico seems to be stepping up, the new female president there, and she came out and said that she will make, it's like 12,000 beds on the Mexico side of the border. At least it's a start, but even Tom Homan says that's just sort of a drop in the bucket.
It is. That's something that we can fill up very quick. And initially, I think, President Trump has been very clear, do not come. But if they test it, if they test his will, they're going to find out very, very quickly that they're going to be removed back to Mexico. So it's only going to take, a few times, a little bit of time for everybody to realize, oh yeah, you know what, they are being sent back. So that's we're going to turn off the magnet. We're going to turn off the catch and release magnet, and it's going to drop the numbers dramatically because people are going to stop coming because they're going to realize if we get caught under this administration, they are going to remove us and bring us back to our country. Now, we need Mexico and we need Canada to help us out, but if they don't want to, Trump is made clear he's prepared to impact them with tariffs, and they don't want that. So I do believe that the Mexican government and the Canadian government are going to be willing to take the people back that have crossed across their borders. So we're looking forward to that. Canada's meeting, by the way, right now, all these officials with Tom Homan and President Trump in Florida trying to figure out the northern border. Ed Cox.
And on the southern border, the president of Panama turns out to be very pro-American and conservative and wants to stop the immigrants. He's building fences. How much of an impact will that have, do you think?
Well, so you've got the Darien Gap, which is where everybody needs to cross to get up. And so if Panama, if they can do more to stop the flow, just like Mexico's promising to do, then we're going to end it a lot sooner. And that's the power of President Trump. He means business. They know that. And so they're going to do everything they can to stay within President Trump's good graces because they know that he has the power to impose those tariffs that are going to hurt their country. So they want to do the right thing. They want to do what they should have been doing had Joe Biden flexed some muscle.
And look, President-elect Trump, they understand where he stands on immigration. When he came down that escalator in 2015, there's no doubt where he stood on immigration. And so they're adjusting to it, the president of Mexico and the president of Panama. But the president of Panama seemed to be ahead of the game because he actually is fully on board.
Yeah, they need to get on board. I mean, President Trump means what he says, and everybody has known exactly where he stood on immigration, like you said, since 2015. So it's not a surprise. You know, he's got a mandate from the American people, and he knows that, and that's what he ran on, and he's going to execute the plans that he talked about on the campaign trail because that's what the American people want.
Ed Cox.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on where do you think it's going to go? You know, the northern border is also a big issue because Canada, as we talked about, is meeting right now in Florida. That seems like porous as heck.
Unless we make it the 51st state.
New York, our northern
That's
border.
right.
Yeah.
Then we're going to have a bigger border, the whole lot.
Well, it's called the largest unfortified border in the world.
Yeah, and they've had like a huge amount of those on the terror watch list crossing because they know, a lot of attention on the southern border, and they're going to the north, right,
Paul? That is Elise Stefanik's district,
absolutely.
And she's made a big point about that. The number of illegals are coming across the northern border of New York.
And Paul, real quick before we let you go, your thoughts about this horrible case of what happened in New York. This is this Guatemalan migrant crossed illegally twice, lit this woman on fire, burned her to death. And there's a lot of debate on like what kind of charges. And then we're also hearing, well, there's still this fight because New York is, quote, a sanctuary city, even though, thank goodness, Eric Adams seems to be having some discussions with President Trump, obviously. But it's like, how are we going to deal with these cities? What are you thinking?
First off, it's very despicable what the Guatemalan immigrant did. He's an illegal alien that should never have been here. And the policies that New York put in place, I mean, I saw it firsthand when I went up to New York to watch President Trump do his rally at Madison Square Garden. I saw exactly what they were talking about. The amount of people that they've let into the state, that they've let into the city because of their policies, the handouts that they were giving, that's what they attracted. They attracted this guy to go in there, this scumbag to go in there and in broad daylight or out in the open, kill a woman by setting her on fire on the freaking subway.
It's unbelievable.
How much more I don't give a crap mentality can you have than that? But that's what they've attracted. That's what these sanctuary city policies bring. I don't know if you guys are aware, but ICE already lodged a detainer, and the Department of Corrections has said they're not going to honor the detainer because of the policies that they have in place.
It is amazing.
If this doesn't change anybody's mind, the liberal mindset, those people need to be voted out of office.
I agree.
Despicable.
Absolutely, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. Have a happy New Year, and we'll catch up again real soon.
Did we find
that song?
We got it.
South of the border, down Mexico way. That's where I fell in love when the stars above.
I don't know if we'll fall in love, but it will be more secure.
Okay,
we're sure of that.
Let's go to that break.
Oi, aqui é a Natália Souza do Para Dar Nome às Coisas e eu tô muito feliz em participar do primeiro amigo secreto de podcasters do TikTok. Eu tirei a Marcela Ceribelli, a Má, do Bom Dia Óbvios, e o meu presente vai ser um livro que eu amo e que bombou muito no TikTok, o Tudo é Rio. A forma com que a Carla Madeira traduz o mundo interno de cada personagem, meu Deus, é arrebatadora.
O TikTok esse ano fez milhões de pessoas voltarem a ler. Um simples TikTok pode gerar um grande impacto. Descubra livros incríveis e muito mais no TikTok.
Você que tá ouvindo o seu podcast, já sabe qual é o efeito do novo Hyundai Creta N-Line em você? Sofisticado, com design e os acabamentos internos exclusivos da linha N-Line. Tecnológico, com o display panorâmico e todos os itens de assistência ao condutor. Confortável, com amplo espaço interno e o maior teto solar panorâmico da categoria. Bom, que tal você mesmo descobrir esse efeito? Chegou o novo Hyundai Creta N-Line, tão poderoso quanto o seu estilo.
Ideal mesmo para o mundo atual seria fazer o ensino médio junto com o curso técnico, certo? É no Senac que o aluno tem autonomia de verdade, formação cidadã, foco na diversidade, preparação para o Enem, material didático sem taxas e muito mais. Na real, tem tudo que você precisa para se sentir preparado para a vida. Seja para entrar no mundo do trabalho ou te ajudar a decidir o que fazer na faculdade. Quer saber? Senac. Vem comigo. Acesse sp.senac.br/ensino-médio-técnico.
Tem um momento na carreira que precisamos dar um passo além. É hora de fazer uma pós-graduação. Só que muitas vezes o custo pesa no bolso, inviabilizando tudo. Com a pós-graduação do Senac, você não tem esse problema. Cursos com até 50% de desconto e muito mais tempo para pagar. TCC opcional, modelo flexível com aulas presenciais e online e alguns cursos com apenas 12 meses de duração. Não tem mais desculpa, hein? Saiba mais em sp.senac.br/pós-graduação.
A common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Cats and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Well, there has been a lot of action there at Mar-a-Lago, and a lot of people tied to business are donating big time to Trump's inauguration fund. The latest, Toyota, Ford, GM, of course, all the big tech titans too. And join us to talk about all of this and much more is the great Fox business reporter, Charlie Gasparino. Charlie, it's great to have you here. It's me and John and Judge Weinberg, Ed Cox, and Governor Patterson. We got, and I would say, like, super well-dressed guys in the studio here, too. So very dapper, Charlie.
Is it Governor Patterson or maybe Mayor Patterson?
Charlie Gasparino put out a tweet the other day.
I saw
a rumor
it.
Out, and I've heard the rumor because I started it a few times.
You were quoted in the rumor, too.
It started in this room, in this studio.
And I think, listen, if there's nobody else running, if Eric Adams is not running, if nobody else is running, I think on the Democratic Party, I think Governor Patterson will make an excellent mayor.
Oh, my, can we clap him? Bravo!
Now,
congratulations, Governor.
I'll just say, I don't know if he wins. Do we still call him governor or do we call him mayor?
We call him Dave. I call him Dave.
Don't call him Nate for dinner.
Right. Never, ever, ever.
You know, if I knew that the city would be where it is right now, say a year and a half ago, I probably absolutely would have done it. But right now, I just find the whole place and the whole environment so foreboding that I think I'll just come in here at 5 o'clock and hang out with you all.
We're not foreboding enough.
A family operation. Curtis against David.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that interesting? That's very interesting.
Fight won't get to the second round.
Just being bashful, Governor. I know you want to run.
I was going to say, we've seen you in action.
Yeah.
We've seen you. You're a tough cookie. We know that.
Looks like it's a draft.
Exactly. So, Charlie, what's your next one about?
I was going to say, you see how I set David up to eat up my entire segment here?
Charlie, thank you. Have a good weekend.
Well done, Charlie.
Press the overtime button. Charlie has the time. Press the overtime button.
Go ahead, Charlie.
What was the question again?
The question 10 minutes ago, the question was all these big tech titans and also now all these big car CEOs because they're breathing a sigh of relief, especially the car industry.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
They're down in Mar-a-Lago licking things.
Yeah, or kissing something, right?
Yes.
Kissing the ring. Kissing the ring.
Talking about rings. Let the record be clear.
Exactly.
Not the rear end.
Rings.
In my view, it's so great watching all these woke companies, donating to Trump and someone who's going to end corporate wokeness. I think when he gets in there, I think we'll get some executive orders on DEI. He'll probably remove it from the Federal Register, federal code. Like DEI is mandated. I don't think it will be mandated anymore. It is interesting. But, to the victor goes the spoils. And I think something else is going on here. I mean, I really do think that these CEOs, even the most woke ones, add it up and they say, here's what we would have had with Kamala Harris. More of the same. She's not as mentally compromised, physically mentally compromised as Biden, but she's no policy wonk. So it'll be the left-wing administrative state will be running the show. That means higher taxes, war on business, wokeness, ESG, everything. Everything you thought of would be pushed on corporate America. And we got Trump, who is a little bit of a wild card on tariffs, but these guys can figure that out.
Hey, let me ask you, Charlie, how much of these tariffs going to be leverage? How much do you think, how much when he says, okay, well, I'm going to, give 25% to Canada, how much do you think he's just using that also as sort of political leverage for whatever they can do?
I think it's 100%. I mean, I can't imagine he wants, he cares about the stock market. I mean, the guy brags about it every day, but he can. So, one thing to kill the stock market would be to, unleash, the sort of across-the-board draconian tariff regime, which I just don't think he's going to do. I think he's going to tariff China. I think companies, and this is going to be probably the biggest sort of, shock for many corporations. They might have to move their operations to Vietnam instead of keeping them in China. I mean, stuff like that could happen. It'll be interesting to see how Elon works with that, because remember, a lot of Tesla stuff is in China. They have a lot of manufacturing there. So, but Apple and all these places is probably going to have to find if Trump goes through what he said. And listen, the guy won, came from behind, survived a couple of assassination attempts. I mean, I think he's going to do everything he says he's going to do. That's my opinion, but we'll see what happens.
Ed Cox.
Yeah, I mean, I understand Vietnam has limited capacity, and they're pretty much up there as far as manufacturing doing. What about the transshipments that are going through Vietnam and Cambodia in particular, which has a close relationship with China?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think all that will be studied. I mean, it may be that you keep them in China because the alternatives are worse, and the fact is you can't just move everything back to the U.S. That's sort of not going to happen. Not everything. Some stuff should be moved back, but not everything. And I think there'll be a compromise there. But clearly, China is on the watch list. I mean, and they have to be. I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is a country that is literally looking to clean our clocks. I'm not saying we go to war with them tomorrow, and I think Trump is adamant that is not going to happen. But they really want to take us out. I mean, why are we subsidizing them taking us out? I mean, and I think Trump is going to, I mean, he's made me a believer on this. I was skeptical at first, but I really believe he's, that's going to come to an end, and can't wait.
Yeah, I think the world can't wait. It's like such a sigh of relief on so many different levels. And I'm glad you got an answer out of Governor Patterson. So that was very effective also, Charlie. So we thank you.
I guess that's a no. I don't know. Did he say no?
It's no. I think it's a yes.
Yes.
If Eric Adams doesn't run, he's going to run.
Yeah, it was a wink, wink, nod.
But it's got to be a draft. He's got to be drafted.
Eric Adams is not going to run. I don't know how he runs. He's going to get indicted again.
Well, then Governor Patterson is draft.
As a good Democrat, he has to look at the options first.
Yeah,
I guess that's right.
As his unpaid advisor.
You too? You don't get paid either?
No.
Oh my gosh! I thought I was the only one who wasn't getting paid as an advisor.
And then he's got to get permission from Mary, which is not going to be easy.
Yeah, that's true.
For sure.
That's true. That's a lot of work.
She
That's
voted
true.
yes twice.
Charlie, thank you very much.
You, Charlie.
You're terrific, Charlie. Have a great weekend.
All right, guys. Talk to you.
Thank you.
Got some hot news?
It's the top news of the day, sponsored by Goya. Here's Rita Cosby.
And a new report, John, shows that homelessness surged in the United States this year. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development released some data on Friday, and it shows the number of people experiencing homelessness shot up. Wow, 18% in 2024. Family homelessness also saw a major jump. This is incredible, of 39% this year compared to last year. That is stunning. And as we talked about at the top of the show, the illegal immigrant accused of setting a sleeping woman on fire on a New York City subway has now been indicted on murder charges that happened a few hours ago. The victim was sitting on an F train Sunday morning when Sebastian Zepeda allegedly approached her and used a lighter to ignite her clothes. A horrible story, and we'll, of course, keep you posted. And everybody coming up, we're going to talk about Canada, Greenland, and the Panama Canal. That and much more after the break with Blaine Holt.
You're commuting home with Katz and Cosby. Now, here's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby on 77 WABC. Breaking news, WABC.
And some sad news, everybody, from the world of sports. Greg Gumbel, legendary sportscaster, has passed away at the age of 78 after a battle with cancer. It just came out a little bit ago. And of course, we were talking earlier about Dick Parsons, too. Of course, the great banking executive and media executive. Time Warner, what a great guy he was, too.
Great CEO, turnaround, managing partner of our law firm.
Yeah, well, and he passed away. We just got the word yesterday that he passed
76.
away, too. So young, 76 and 78,
He had been ill for a long time.
Yes.
And still managed to get some things done. He really, every time there was a major board, you saw his name.
Yeah, you did. That's true. And so also a great philanthropist, too. And Greg Gumbel, too, did so much in the philanthropy, too. Anyway, our thoughts and prayers with both of those just great, great souls. And joining us now to talk about what's going on in the world of Canada, Greenland, and the Panama Canal, all topics that President Trump has been talking about, is Brigadier General Blaine Holt. General, I got to ask you about Greenland, because Trump keeps talking about Greenland, saying we got to get Greenland for national security. What are your thoughts as an expert in national security?
Well, Happy New Year to everybody, and I want to first congratulate Governor Patterson on his run for mayor.
Hey, bravo! Bro, you could be his military advisor.
Thank you, General.
I'll be the military advisor. Not a problem.
I may need you when I go there.
You got me.
I'll give him your number after the show. Okay.
So I'll just say that I believe Greenland's going to cost us more than the $3 million we spent on Alaska. It's a little bit bigger. I think what you're looking at here is a really nice way for Trump to say we recognize how vulnerable we are in a world of hypersonics weapons and very little time to decide what you're going to do if you're being attacked. And we can ill afford to have any type of military force oriented against the United States using Greenland as a geographic possibility. And so his overture, which he opened up 2016 with, to say maybe we ought to buy it, that's a very traditional Trump negotiating style. Just punch first into the face and then see what the reaction is, and then smile and say, hey, let's work it out. Maybe we can get to some agreement. And I think that's what we'll see in this case, which is going to be NATO activities, security guarantees, no interaction from China. And then if you expand that out to Panama and Canada, what you're looking at is President Trump is actually really greatly interested in reestablishment of the Monroe Doctrine, especially as it would apply to China, Iran, and adversaries of the United States.
Ed Cox.
Yeah, Blaine, the Panama, China's obviously involved there. How much of a security threat is that to the United States?
It's a massive security threat in a variety of ways. First off, you have four major choke points in this world, of which the Panama Canal is one, where if you shut these things down, meaning Panama Canal, Suez Canal, Malaccan Straits, the Cape of Good Hope, you then effectively shut down the economy of the United States. We know that. The Chinese have used their Belt and Road Initiative, basically payday loans for countries to build infrastructure projects, as a way to co-opt and corrupt governments all over the world. And I'm not suggesting that the new Panamanian governor or the new Panamanian president is in any way, shape, or form co-opted. He's actually a very good partner. But what I would say is that China is very interested in logistically choking us off. It's a preference for them. The Panama Canal is something that they took up shop in and took an interest in immediately when President Carter had surrendered it. And now it's gotten very serious, where the Chinese basically decide what goes through that ditch and what doesn't. It's also been horribly mismanaged, overly built, and now we have severe engineering limitations on getting shipping and cargo through there, and the Chinese are largely to blame. So I certainly understand the focus on that, and I understand that we cannot live in an environment where strategic interests or vital interests of the United States are in any way co-opted, and at the same time, these wars of choice overseas, or wars that get created because we're not minding the store, showing leadership, that's where President Trump wants to get us out of.
You know, one of the things you were talking about, sort of the blockade and all the issues with, tied to the canal, I'm thinking about also, General Blaine Holt, the issue, what's going on still in the Red Sea. This is something that we talk about a lot here with, and the fact the Houthis are out there. I can't believe a ragtag group. I mean, it's incredible. I'm glad that Israel is finally saying we're going to take out the Houthi leadership. It's stunning the damage that they have caused vis-a-vis Iran, who controls them in the Red Sea. All the blockades. Think about the damage to shipping and life, and that they've been able to just go on because of this president, this current president, President Biden.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And from Ukraine down to Sana'a, we see the fingerprints of Blinken and Sullivan all over these places, who bypass good planning and strategy advice from the Defense Department, taking things into their own hands and essentially parroting all the same actions that McNamara did during the Vietnam War. Here's incremental weapons. We'll throw money at things. We won't have a strategy. And then what we'll do is severely tie the hands of our military commanders so that they're micromanaged and they can't really take any initiative whatsoever. And what that looks like is what we've seen, which is a United States Navy that looks or appears optically like it's a peer to the Houthis when nothing could be further from the truth. If you gave us the mission and said, remove the Houthis, we would do that. And it would be very, very quick. And the way we would do that is we would eliminate their supply lines first. That means no Russian hypersonics or advanced weaponry into their hands. That means no Iranian advisors to help them fire these weapons. But look at Israel. They've just taken care of 2 proxies. Here's the third. Iran is likely next. The Ayatollah is weakened. You've got a rising threat in what Erdogan created in Syria. And as bad as this all looks, it's actually better than it has been. So I'm very optimistic and hopeful for this region, but there is going to be some rough days ahead before we get to better ones.
Well, General, thank you. Thank you for everything you've done for our country and continue to speak out for our country. And we'll catch up with you again real soon.
Thank you, and good luck with the campaign.
Thank you, General.
I'm applying for
my number one supporter
manager.
now.
You are? You're going to apply?
Yeah,
I'll be press secretary.
All right.
How about that? All
All right, let's go, Rita. Who's next?
We have Dr. Mark Siegel now.
Oh, what a
joining
guy.
us.
He's the first time on in a century.
Oh, my God. We missed you.
Listen, if John is running for something again, that means all the dinners we're going to have are going to be fundraisers. I don't know if I can handle that.
That's true. But they'll be good ones. They'll be good ones.
We're going to have extra calories.
There's no question about it. But whatever he runs for, he should win, and we all know that. So, your dexterity and abilities. So I think you have me on to talk about this horrible subway crime.
Exactly.
Horrible.
The K2. And Dr. Mark Siegel, really interesting because obviously this horrible crime that committed by this guy, the roommate is now coming out. It's making a lot of headlines that the guy was taking frequently K2, according to the roommate. And it's the same drug we heard that Jordan Neely, who was on that subway case, remember the whole thing that happened with Daniel Penny, that apparently he was taking. So tell us, what is K2? I'm glad I don't know what it is.
Well, before I tell you that, we also have to point out that once again, this was an illegal immigrant that was here. He was deported in 2018 and then came back from Guatemala. So, we're not safe. Our borders are not protected. And obviously that's going to change with President Trump coming in and strong talk from home. And I'm all in on that. K2 is something, this is another horrendous issue, Rita, because we're talking about how marijuana is now legal in 24 states, medical marijuana in 39 states. And I always say, well, but it's not the old marijuana we're used to. It's high potency stuff. K2 or spike is actually synthetic cannabinoid, which is like marijuana, and they put it on plants so it looks like marijuana. Guess what? It's legal. You can get it in a gas station or a mall. You can get it. They call it potpourri also. You can just pick it up, and you don't know what you're getting. It's got all kinds of additives in ingredients. If you drink it with alcohol, it doubles and triples its impact. Thousands of calls to poison centers are coming from this. It can cause psychosis, out-of-the-body experience, paranoia, deep anxiety, rapid heart rate, even bleeding. I mean, it's got a lot of side effects, and I'm glad we can use it as a public health message that people shouldn't be taking this stuff.
Judge Weinberg.
And Doctor, as you well know, the problem with the K2 is these people are so hyped up, their strength is 3 or 4 times that of a normal person, which makes it a very difficult thing for a police officer to take the person down.
Really great point, Judge. Really great point. And that, of course, in this case, it was the out-of-body experience and the fact that he was smoking a lot of this stuff every single day. But again, I don't give that an out. I think, it's so inhuman and horrendous. The point about the body, about the strength applies to the other case as well. And that's absolutely true.
It's interesting. The Jordan Neely case.
Anything.
Remember in the case.
This is legal.
Yeah, and remember in the case, in the Jordan Neely case.
That's
where
why it took
Daniel Penny and others.
Take him down.
Exactly. And they were describing him like sort of Superman strength, to your point, Judge.
Well, I ran special narcotics for 7 years in New York City in the state Supreme Court. And I'm telling you, this K2, as Dr. Siegel points out, is a very dangerous drug, but it's also dangerous to the people around them because when they go get psychotic and they have that super strength, everybody's at risk.
Yeah, we're seeing a pattern, too, of two of these horrible cases.
You're taking it on top of pre-existing problems.
Yep.
Obviously, he wasn't stable to begin with, and then you take this stuff on top of it, and out of control behavior, out of the body, psychotic, paranoid, anxious.
Yep. Dr. Siegel, thank you so much. We love having you on, and we'll figure out who's buying dinner next time, okay?
Well, I can't wait. I'm waiting for the invite. You know, it's coming soon. I know that. And the judge better be there, too. I'll tell you that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What about the future mayor?
Doctor's orders.
Of course, the future mayor, of course.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you very much. Dr. Siegel, thank you. We love having you on. Have a great weekend. Thank you.
Now,
and
let's take a break. And who do we coming back with?
We have, this is a great investigative journalist from the New York Post, James Bovard, who's going to talk about that bombshell of what we knew about the lab leak in Wuhan and when we knew it and maybe how it might have been one big cover-up.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Well, we are back here on Katz and Cosby, and it was a big story in the New York Post. Everybody's talking about spy bosses silencing the Defense Department, not giving the right information about the lab leak, the old Wuhan lab. John, you were one of the first people talking about that. I remember that. And joining us now to discuss this and more is James Bovard. He is with the New York Post. And James, talk about how this was really a huge con on America and the rest of the world.
Thanks for having me on. Yes, it was, I had such high hopes for the Biden administration when the president promised to be transparent. But, it just didn't happen. The story yesterday exposed huge cover-ups that's gone on. There were a lot of federal experts in the FBI and in the Pentagon who recognized that this COVID pandemic came from a lab in Wuhan that was being funded by the U.S. government, by NIH, in violation of U.S. guidelines. And so, but there was a concerted effort to whitewash the Chinese Communist government and to whitewash NIH and the policymakers there who helped spawn this deadly pandemic that killed over 1 million Americans.
So why were they whitewashing it? Explain why. Why was there such like a concerted effort not to tell the people the truth?
There were several different motives. Very quickly after the pandemic hit here, there was a bunch of scientists put out this statement saying there was a conspiracy theory to even suggest that the virus had leaked out of the lab, even though that lab was doing the same kind of experiments that were trying to move a virus from one species to another, which is apparently what happened and what leaked out, either intentionally or accidentally. So, and there was a huge push to put a halo over scientists. Fauci was very blunt in saying that people could not criticize him because that was like criticizing science, and if people do that, then we've got a new dark age. So there were so many different levels of BS. It's like peeling an onion here, but there were so many bad motivations. And what happened was early on you had NIH bigwigs trying to cover up their role in financing that research that led to the COVID-19 virus.
So, but you know what? It's almost like, I guess they think like the American public's stupid, because I don't believe in coincidences. And I remember, John, like early on, we were talking about the lab, the fact there's that lab right down
talking about it
right
all
down
along
from the very
beginning. The major channels, CBS, NBC, ABC, they were calling us nuts.
Yes. And John, by the way, John, for the record, you were one of the first ones. I remember that it was like the lab is literally down the street. Yeah. And yet they thought, okay, we're going to hide it. I mean, that's ridiculous, James. It really is. And think about the devastation.
At the end of the day, it looks like Fauci was full of whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it certainly looks like that. And it wasn't them just trying to badmouth critics. you had the U.S. State Department pressuring Twitter and other companies to censor anybody, to suppress anybody who mentioned that research conducted at the Wuhan Institute. That's all it took to get banished. The State Department sent Twitter a list of 250,000 accounts it wanted censored, including American journalists. People were not allowed to say the truth, and that was huge because what happened early on was that the Democrats, a lot of the media, took that pandemic to portray the government as a savior. We had to give all this blind power to the government. We had to let them shut down the schools, shut down the churches, the synagogues, everything else, and then later on mandate vaccines because we had to give government absolute power to save us. But if people had recognized early on that the U.S. government had a big role in causing this pandemic, the U.S. government never could have been put on a pedestal.
Yeah, great points. Governor Patterson.
Mr. Bavard, there's a new administration coming in. The government will be run by people that probably would have been very sympathetic to the first information that would have come out. What do you think might happen in the next 6 months?
I hope that they open the files because this is something which the Trump administration failed to do in 2017 because there are so many files that I think would be scandalous as far as people intentionally covering up some of the evidence on this pandemic. There was a huge effort at CDC to cover up the failure of the vaccines. I mean, if you flip back to the summer of 2021, you had Joe Biden promising people that if they got vaccinated, they would not get COVID. The CDC knew that was false at the time, but Biden was out there saying it. And then after that, Biden mandated the vaccine for 100 million adults. Happily, the Supreme Court struck down most of that. But there were so many lies at the heart of the COVID policy. And we need to open the files. We need to find out the other bad things and cons that federal agents and politicians did.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they're going to be very busy in the Trump administration doing all that. James Brevard, thank you very, very much. It's really great to have you here and really great work. Keep us posted on other stuff. Really interesting stuff. That's a mind blower. It's like, wow.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Great to have you here. Thank you very much. Wow, very interesting stuff, guys. I can't wait to see what's in those files.
Will be interesting.
Yeah, Dr. Fauci's going to be, I'm moving to Mexico.
Senator Paul's on his case.
Yeah, exactly. Boy, is he ever, guys. That's going to be interesting. And everybody, what do we all stand for?
Truth, justice, and the American way. God bless America.